Strange, an X-Files rewatch podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And I suppose the biggest news we've got is that we have a new social media because Twitter is self-destructing.
Yes, we got a bit concerned earlier in the week, which is a shame after 5 weeks of plugging our Twitter like mad that Twitter seems to be currently on fire.
Yes, so in case it might be down by the time you hear this, and if it is, then Kim can now tell you where to find us.
Yes, I have moved. I'm still using the Twitter at present, so yeah, as long as Twitter is up, you can still contact me through the usual getstrange42 at Twitter address. I am also now on Tumblr. Again, getstrange42 is my Tumblr handle on there. And also, I have set up a Mastodon. Please bear with me, I'm still getting the hang of Mastodon. But you can find us at getstrange42 at universeodon, that's ODON.com.
Nicely complicated there.
Yep, at getstrange42 at universeodon.com.
Cool. And our email address and other website and everything else is still intact at the moment.
Yep, the Facebook as well.
And Facebook.
Apologies, I haven't been using the Facebook as much as the Twitter, but it is there if that's easier for you to follow us and contact us.
Cool. Otherwise, I don't think we've got much news. You found Wordle very difficult this week.
Yeah, I'm failing at Mulder. Mulder, not Wordle. Yep. Failing so badly at Mulder. It keeps giving me conspiracy episodes and it just look at First Elder's face and can't decide what episode it is based on that.
Well, later episodes, and also Fight Club. Oh, Fight Club, we'll get to you later.
Yeah, must admit, didn't get the Fight Club one until I saw, is it Kathy Bates who's in that one? I think it's Kathy
Bates, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Kathy Bates, is it? No, it's,
comedian.
Yeah, is it Griffiths?
Griffiths, yes, Kathy Griffiths, that's the one.
I don't think it's the woman from Misery.
No, you are absolutely correct.
That'd be kind of cool, though.
Mm.
Okay, so anything else of note, or shall we get to episodes?
No, I don't think I have any gossip this week. Have you found anything of interest?
Nothing of interest this week. I still need to go back through the archives.
Ah, yes. The ones that our friends told us about last week.
Yes. And so again, need to get to that one. It's just one thing on top of everything else.
It's there for when you need it.
It is. But okay, so this week we have watched Fallen Angel and Eve. Fallen Angel was first broadcast on the 19th of November 1993, directed by Larry Shaw, and written by Howard Gordon and Alec Ganza, which should be a reason to pause, but this was actually a really good episode. Significant guest stars are Frederick Coffin, who played Joseph McGrath. The other things we've seen him in are Wayne's World, of all things. He is Officer Kowalski, who appears very minorly in that film. There's also Marshall Bell, who played Calvin Henderson. He's in Nightmare on Elm Street 2 as Coach Schneider.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, he's in Total Recall as Kawato. He's in Starship Troopers as General Owen.
Mm.
And a whole load of other things that aren't that memorable to me. And returning guest star once again is Jerry Harden as Deep Throat. Mulder is formed of a crashed UFO in Wisconsin by Deep Throat. He arrives after a US Air Force reclamation team has begun covering up the site. Mulder is swiftly captured while taking photos, and while in detainment meets Max Fennick, a like-minded UFO enthusiast. Scully arrives the next morning to tell Mulder that the FBI Section Chief McGrath is threatening to shut down the X-Files. He has gone over and above Blevins, and this is a big threat to him. He has to be back in Washington the next day to appeal at a hearing against him. Scully has been told that the accident Mulder has infiltrated is not in fact a toxic spill from the railroad, but is in fact a downed Libyan fighter jet. Mulder is dismissive of this as much as he was dismissive of the first cover story. Meanwhile, an invisible creature moves through the woods and escapes confinement and out into the wider world. Arriving back at Mulder's motel, they find it has been ransacked by Max, who has recognised Mulder and is a fan of his, Mulder having written some articles in a UFO magazine under a pseudonym that Max swiftly decoded. Max plays them a radio broadcast which appeared in the episode's Cold Open, where a deputy sheriff is attacked by a creature nearby to the crash, and subsequent to this, a fire crew is also attacked. The wife of the deputy has been threatened to stay quiet, as has the doctor who treated the fire crew. The fire crew suffered horrendous and abnormal burns. Nearby, soldiers are attempting to corner the mysterious invisible creature, who then attacks them with a blinding white light. They are taken to the hospital, and Scully helps with the treatment. Mulder returns to talk to Max and finds him having a seizure. He notes a triangular scar behind Max's ear and links this to other X-Files. When Scully returns to the motel, she thinks that any alien abduction experience that Max might report is a delusion based on his medication. Mulder unusually counters and says that Max does not believe he's been abducted. Mulder believes Max has been abducted. A large UFO arrives and hovers over the town. The strange invisible force enters Max's trailer and does something to him. Mulder and Scully find him missing, and they follow a radio transmission from the army to the docks. Inside a warehouse, they find Max, seemingly suffering from another epileptic fit. Scully leaves to deal with the military, while Mulder is attacked by the creature. Max is held aloft in a beam of light and vanishes. Later in Washington, Mulder is informed that Max's body was found dead inside a cargo container. All his protests about his treatment have been dismissed. Deep Throat overrides the decision to shut down the X-Files, noting, to quote The Godfather, I think it is, to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So, Fallen Angel. It's a good episode.
Yeah, I liked it.
It's amazing, really, given that these two's track record, we did not like their previous installments.
Which ones did they do previously?
They did Conduit, which made absolutely no sense.
Hey.
They also did Ghost in the Machine, which you found the novelization far more compelling. And then they suddenly hit home with Fallen Angel, which is actually really effective.
Yeah, I've got to admit I haven't enjoyed the conspiracy episodes so far as much, but Fallen Angel I liked. I got into that one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know, I suppose it deals with aliens, so we'll have to consider it conspiracy, but...
How are you going to argue it's not conspiracy?
Well, I don't know, actually.
You've got Deep Throat, you've got them shutting down the X-Files.
Yeah,
you have Max being beamed up.
The military. Yeah, but Max being beamed up. Another wonderful case of Scully stepping out of the room for the 30 seconds before she'll see something dramatic.
But at least she didn't have to tangle with the seatbelt this time.
That's true. No, she actually just walked out the scene and everyone missed it. I am the start at the end there with the Max being beamed up. I'm very confused as to how the alien worked.
Go on, get your complaints out of the way.
Well, it's the whole... So, the ship has crashed. We know it's a UFO because Deep Throat has said it's a UFO. We've got the Army Detection Service saying this craft has come down very fast in this section. Oh, it's a meteor. What, really? Yes, it's a meteor. Oh, no, the second meteor has turned up and it's hovering over a town in Wisconsin.
I quite like them coding, military coding them as meteors.
It is very
cute.
Men in Black, yeah. But okay, so the ship has crashed and the alien pilot, we're going to assume it's an alien, has survived.
Yes.
It is an invisible thing that can attack with a blinding white light and give you Hiroshima-level burns.
Very severe radiation burns, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do equate to Hiroshima, don't they?
But
or at least ionized radiation.
The way radiation works, though, is it depends how close you are to the epicenter of your degree of burns. Because, of course, if you are in Hiroshima, if you are at ground zero, of course, it just evaporated people.
Yeah.
You're looking at being like 3 to 5 miles away from Hiroshima to get burns.
Yeah. And yet they're right next to the alien when it attacks them.
Mm. But that's how a nuclear blast works.
Yeah. Okay. So it's survived the crash and it's wandering around the woods, and it turns out to be like Predator from the film Predator.
I was thinking on this at the time. Yeah, I agree the Predator similarity, but we've kind of seen that the aliens are intangible in my personal favourite episode, Space.
Well,
already. So this could be the next variant on Space Ghost. You've got this thing that it seems can either possess or otherwise control Max, but it also has a physical presence as well.
Yeah, I was working up to the possessing bit, but yeah, so invisible alien wandering around the woods, and I did make a big point of the episode. And you kept saying maybe it's a quadruped, but it's got a really low camera angle when it's running around.
Look, think of like dinosaurs that can run on 4 legs and also stand up on their back legs, like Iguanodon.
That's fair.
So maybe it was low to the ground because it was running.
Okay, and we'll assume it's like the xenomorph, and it's kind of like the camera angle in Alien vs Predator, the game, not the film. So
you've got this thing that can stand up as tall as a person, but when it's sneaking and running, it's down on all 4s. Yeah. It's invisible, so we don't know what kind of shape it is.
I'm just going to show Kim what the shape was, because we do have an image of this. I think we'll have to link this on the Twitter.
I'm going to put this up on the social media. But so you know what I am looking at.
See,
oh gosh, that's Silent Hill level. It is a person in a kind of body-covering scarlet morph suit that's even kind of covering their limbs and face, pinning their arms against their sides. Why didn't they just leave it looking like this? That's spectacular.
The weird shape wandering through the woods.
Yeah. As soon as this airs, I am going to put this photo on the social media, just so check Twitter and Mastodon or whatever, you'll see what I am laughing at.
Yeah. So I'll take that off the screen because that's going to be distracting otherwise.
Please get rid of it.
So that shape is wandering around the woods.
Well, Kim's Conspiracy Corner this week's going to be different.
Yeah. But it looks like it's going to bite people's ankles. Anyway, so it is invisible. It can bend light around itself, as is obvious by the predator kind of look, which means it can also go through the laser fences, which seem like a stupid idea anyway, but what do I know? That does raise a question of UFO reclamation experts. They apparently don't know the alien is invisible. Actually, no, they do know it's invisible, but they don't know it can get through their fences. Because otherwise they wouldn't be using the heat vision thing, would they?
That fence looked like it was more of a kind of alarm system, though. Was it just to trigger if the alien did get out so they knew where it was heading?
Yeah, but they didn't know it had gone through it, because that raised no alarms.
Did it not? It kind of zapped when the thing went through it.
It did, but I think that was just meant to be the effect of it going through and it sort of not doing anything to deter it.
Okay, fair enough.
I could be wrong there, but I think that's how synopsis says it as well. But anyway, so the alien escapes, and then it tracks down Max, and it stares into Max's eyes. And then Max walks to the docks, and then vaporizes 2 army guys.
Weird.
It does seem to possess him. Like, it does come back to your Space Ghost, doesn't it?
It's not necessarily possessing him, I guess.
Yeah.
It's done something to him. Like, going back to Pilot, the aliens could control Billy Miles. They weren't actively possessing him. And we know that at least it looks like Max has some sort of implant because he's got the scar under his ear.
Yeah. Not ear, no nose this time, ear this time.
So, much like the kids in Pilot could be controlled through the implants in their nose, maybe this is another kind of alien, another way of controlling humans.
It could be. I mean,
we don't know they're the same alien again.
We don't. And I know this is only going to get to their alien. We don't know how they work. But I don't quite get why the alien creature went up to Max, sent him down to the docks, was apparently next to him to vaporize the army guys, put him into an epileptic fit in the middle of a warehouse, hid behind some barrels in the corner, waited for Scully to leave, rushed Mulder, and then...
Didn't zap Mulder,
didn't zap Mulder for no appreciable reason other than he's the main character. And then both of them beamed up? Or was he possessing Max? Or did he come out of Max? And I don't get it. The alien biology makes very little sense.
Is alien biology going to make sense to you, though?
Probably not. I mean, admittedly...
You're the cockroach.
I'm the cockroach, and I can't understand them. But just in terms of cause and effect, there's some odd movements going on there.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a step too many.
Yeah, and it's a case of, if it just possessed Max, and yes, you would link it back to space and say, yeah, this is how they operate. They're kind of incorporeal or something.
But if that was the case, it wouldn't have had the physical presence in the woods when it is actively attacking people.
Yeah.
It's fair enough it's not physically attacking them, but they are seeing something and reacting to it, like the ranger at the start.
Yes. I mean, he certainly saw the shimmer in the air.
Mm.
And again, it comes back to the whole, they do seem to understand what they're dealing with, given they've got the heat vision scopes, which you're not going to deploy unless you know you can't spot it any other way.
They were all in hazmat suits as well when Mulder's spying on them in the woods, which could be radiation protection again.
Yes. I think those were just meant to be the Back to the Future style radiation protection, the big heavy plastic things. As they spray CO2 onto the ship, which gets to cool it down.
It's a fantastic shot, though.
It is very
when Mulder's watching from the bushes and there's the crashed pizza-shaped ship again.
Well, we think it's very vague shape out there.
You can kind of see that sort of caldera on the underside, though. Again, a bit like the one in Conduit.
Yeah. But it's clearly not a downed Libyan fighter jet.
No. It is more the kind of... Well, again, the look of that experimental aircraft in Conduit. The thing behind the screen that they wheel Mulder past.
Oh, because then we can also point to the photo of the Roswell
Deep
crash.
Throat, isn't it? Deep Throat with the Pizza Celeste one.
But also the photo he inexplicably has of the Roswell crash.
Yes.
Before it crashed.
But we've seen there are a couple of different alien spaceships so far. I'm still maintaining the Volkswagen Transporter spaceship that's in Conduit is different to the Deep Throat spaceship.
That's true. This one seems to be a much more elaborate model, aside from the fact it crashed horribly into the woods, because the other one is bigger and floats above the city.
Maybe
invisibly.
you're going, again, the Deep Throat spaceship they kind of said was reclaimed stuff from Roswell.
Yeah.
So this might be, 60 years down the line, the better model of that spaceship.
That's very true. It's more impressive.
I'm going to assume that alien spaceships work like cars on this basis and you don't have the same model forever.
You'd hope, it makes sense. Teleportation, though, is a new one for us. We haven't had that implied so far.
You've had kind of people appearing in weird places, though, again in Pilot.
Yeah, I mean, we do disagree on this one, because I think they've walked out there and you think they've been teleported.
Yeah, I still don't think they could have walked out there. Time only stops for a few minutes, otherwise everything is singularized in this one place in the woods.
Oh, I think that's a mistake in Pilot more than anything else, though. But yeah, Max is definitely beamed up,
but
which is
yeah,
a first.
I still disagree with you. I think they were translocated in Pilot, too.
But we can agree that in this episode, Max was beamed up.
Definitely, without question, because you see him in the blue beam of light.
Yeah. Although, I mean, we do have to get picky again in this case of, cool, why didn't you pick him up from the trailer? So much simpler.
Because it's cooler in the warehouse.
It's cooler.
And you get that bit where there are 3 heat signatures and then there's only 1.
Yeah. And it is still a bit weird that just the alien look in the corner is quite strange. So, Max is an interesting character, at least. It's interesting to see the outside perspective of Mulder properly for the first time, not as an antagonist, but as another believer. Because we've got, he knows who Mulder is from a series of articles he's written about. What did he write about?
I remember he wrote it under the very convincing pseudonym of M.F. Luder.
Yeah.
No one will guess who that is.
Yeah, he's written some article about it that Max has read. And he also quizzes him about crop circles and things. But I thought the hilarious one is, and I think we'll have to do a roundup of this at some point, is he's been following Mulder's progress through his travel expenses, because they are freely available through the Freedom of Information Act. Given Mulder has bounced back and forth across the country, and just wait till next episode where they go from either side of continental America, don't they? And no one sort of probably blinks at sort of doing this.
I've got to believe that the FBI only has one field office in the entirety of America. It's not like they have regional offices or anything like that.
No. In Eve, they do say the San Francisco office.
Yeah, they've said it a few times.
They have said it a few times.
Because there was the Maryland office or something like that previously as well.
Yeah. People are watching Mulder not necessarily in the conspiratorial sense, but in the whole possible ally sense. Not that he keeps hold of Max. So conspiratorial stuff, we have... The government has, or at least... We'll say the government, it's like the Air Force, isn't it? They have a series of conspiracy countermeasures in place. There's the covert name for what's happened, which is a fallen angel, which is a good kind of inscrutable phrase for downed UFO.
I think it's believable as well. It does sound like a kind of military code.
Yeah. And then on top of that, they've got the multiple cover stories, because there's a toxic spill, which is to get most people out of the way.
The meteor.
The meteor for the Air Force people, then there's a toxic spill for the public. And then there's a downed Libyan fighter jet for anyone who sort of pokes holes in the toxic spill story.
It also, putting fear words like radiation in there will mean that no investigative journalists are going to come and poke around that area as well.
Yeah, I'll be very reluctant to actually do anything more with it. The idea of the scope of it, which I don't think we've had prior to this, that there is a scope to what they're doing, and they have taken countermeasures at each level of the lie.
It's very insular previously, so you had things like it being confined to one base in Deep Throat, for example. Yeah. This is more of a kind of globalization, mobilization, and I think even Deep Throat, when he tells Mulder about this at the start, kind of says it'll all be gone within 24 hours.
Yes. It's not clear what they do with the wreckage, but yeah.
Presumably it's going to places like that base that was in Deep Throat.
That's true.
I think in Deep Throat they said there were 6 or 7 bases that they split this stuff between.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting as well. It's a throwaway line, and you could interpret it multiple ways, but it's the whole, this time it won't get away from us. Or this time it won't get away. It's a case of, it's an antagonistic relationship with the aliens. Because they need to hunt it down. And again, that's presumably why they're aware it's invisible. Which is sort of, the government agency dealing with this must be fascinating. In this case of, is this technological, is this biological, how was the creature doing it? Whatever it might be.
The introduction for Max is kind of fun as well because it gives us one of X-Files' most famous taglines. Is when Max is trying to get Mulder's attention and Mulder is pretending to know nothing. Max does finally state the line of "trust no one."
Oh yeah, he does. He just out of the blue he says "trust no one."
I get it. Trust no one.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So one of the X-Files' most famous little taglines, along with things like "I want to believe."
Yeah. Although also interesting that Max does that, knowing full well who has just been sat next to him.
Mm.
Given he immediately goes and trashes Mulder's hotel room looking for, not sure ultimately what he was actually searching for in there.
Max, you've got to kind of follow, is always erratic as well, and you don't really know who he's working for. Because it's kind of, from the Scully and the Mulder perspective, Max suffers from temporal lobe seizures and also schizophrenia.
Yes.
But on the flip side is he's also almost certainly an abductee as well, so you're not sure how much of it is medical conditions and how much is that he's behaving that way because he's being controlled in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that distinction this episode has as well, is that Max doesn't think he's been abducted by aliens, he's just fascinated by them. Mulder thinks he is.
Yeah, Max is fascinated by them, and you have a lot of the provenance as well as Mulder kind of clicks on eventually, is what would the odds that an abductee like Max with such a vivid interest in UFOs would happen to be there in the place where this UFO crashes.
Yes. And I kind of like the very sort of tenuous note to how his first abduction was in South Dakota, when he was first diagnosed with schizophrenia from a head injury that he doesn't remember getting. And we've got to take that this was the first time he was abducted and experimented on. For reasons we don't know what.
Why just him? It's not like the class of 87 where they took several kids at the same time.
Yeah, this is more... I think this is closer to more real-world kind of alien abduction and implant kind of stories where it's scattered people across a very wide area have similar stories and similar scars and things.
Max is kind of interesting because most people have their UFO abduction story, as Max doesn't.
Yes, yeah, it's against type.
It's Mulder that realises he's an abductee. Max thinks he's epileptic.
Yes.
Well, indeed is epileptic. We witness him have at least 2 seizures over the course of the episode.
Yes. It is an interesting difference to how we've had it before. So when they go out to his trailer and discover that Max is gone, conveniently the radio has been left on, and they're tuned into an army frequency, which kind of feels like one of those whole, you probably shouldn't be able to get on this frequency, because there's a whole government kind of security risk in this.
I can't imagine it's easy for a police scanner to hack into those sort of things.
Yeah, they're meant to be kind of encrypted. I mean, this was the whole thing in Conduit as well, with the whole why they sort of throw the book at...
with the kid.
Yeah. But anyway, so they hear on the radio that 2 soldiers have been attacked on the dockside, and Mulder just goes, "That's Max! Onwards!" Okay. Based on what?
Oh, this is the second time they go to Max's trailer.
Yeah, it's the second time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also timing. It's sort of... I like the episode, but it's a case of Mulder says to Scully, "Oh, can you come and have a look at Max?" And Scully says, "Okay, then we've got to go to Washington." They then apparently spend 5 hours packing Mulder's room. Meanwhile, the alien has crept into his trailer, got on at Max, and both of them have spirited away somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? And there is a kind of... We're not privy to it, and I wonder if that's meant to be keeping us on the back foot, of we don't know how the army knows Max is the target. Because he's wandering around the dockside, and they just come and approach him, and then they're kind of pursuing him into the warehouse. It's like they somehow know he's what they're looking for, despite the fact they've arrested him like 2 nights before and thrown him out.
I suppose on that argument you couldn't make the leap of they know he's an abductee or something like that.
No, although I can't help but think that, because there's a bit when Mulder wakes up after meeting Max, and the cell beside him is just empty. And he just goes, "Oh, I guess they already released him." I wonder if, rather than having the creature wandering around the woods and just zipping to his laser fence, could you not have had it sort of make its way down into Max's cell, do its weird stare thing at Max, and teleport them both out, or use Max as a sort of Trojan horse to get itself outside the base? I don't know, it seems like a missed opportunity. But I don't know, that might not be how it works, because we don't know.
Without understanding how these kind of aliens work, you can't really
make a judgment
on that. Not at this stage anyway, maybe it's something for later.
Yeah. We do have to talk about Mulder's plot armour, though, to a certain extent, because...
The only person not severely radiation burned in this episode.
I'll go for, yes, it is a much smaller flash of light. You can make the argument that Max is right there, and if the alien decides to sort of vaporize Mulder, it's going to take out Max, which they want for some reason.
Mm.
It does seem overly convenient. Everyone else is just fried.
Would it take out Max, though? Because Max has just vaporised 2 people on the way in.
Well, I know, that's why I sort of get confused.
I say vaporised, sorry, burnt 2 people on the way in.
Again, this is why I get confused as to what's going on at this point.
Mm.
Is it inside him? Is he it? Is it 2 separate things?
Until you kept saying when we were watching the episode Possessed, I thought it was just kind of controlling him, like it was there with him, but again, I couldn't explain why it needed to control Max.
No. And also, it's the whole, when it goes into his trailer and sort of stares right at him. I can understand the puppeteering to sort of draw him to or something. I don't think I've got an exact analogue somewhere else, but it gives you the impression that it's like taking over him, isn't it?
I suppose we've got 2 different precedents so far in the series, because we know from Space that some aliens can possess.
Yes.
And we know from Pilot that some can control through an implant.
Yep.
And because Max evidently does have an implant, it could go either way.
Yeah. So in fact, we've done both of them at the same time, just to confuse everything.
But I've got to... I guess, thinking about it, it could be similar to Space Ghost, because Space Ghost damaged the spaceships using intense heat.
That's true.
Like radiation.
Yeah.
So you have still got that similar idea. We can't rule out that it isn't the same type of alien as Space Ghost.
That's very true. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. I think, to switch tack a bit, just because I've noticed this note, I think we have to go for Scully's continuing terrible, terrible bedside manner, even though she helps with surgery in this episode.
I love that Dr. Oppenheim, I think he's called.
Yes, Dr. Oppenheim.
Dr. Oppenheim.
Very subtle.
But I liked his small rebellion by allowing Scully to stay in the room.
That was good. I mean, I think the sad part is that she gained absolutely nothing of use from that.
It would have been probably more useful if Mulder had been the one to stay in the room. But unfortunately, he's not the medical doctor with very poor bedside manner.
No, but it's like she was terrible when she was trying to talk to the wife of the deputy. Mm. And as you point out, though, at the end of the episode, when Mulder's going for his hearing, she didn't even hold the door open for him, and he's got a broken leg.
Yeah.
Scully, you were trained as a doctor, right?
I liked Scully's character in this episode as well, because you've really got Scully getting to the end of her tether when it comes to her kind of following protocol here.
Yes.
She's had Mulder breaking into classified bases before, but this is kind of the worst thing Mulder's ever done, going rogue on this one. And Scully is doggedly trying to get him to follow protocol throughout the episode, because Scully can see the fact that they will close him down.
Yes.
You see with Scully, though, is that basically if someone higher tells Scully something, she will believe it and she will not question it.
Yes, I was going to say, that's interesting for the Libyan fighter jet, is the fact that she recites that to Mulder, and as soon as he presses back on it, she wavers, because she, as much as you said, she will sort of believe it or repeat it. She doesn't entirely believe what they're saying.
But she still ignores the inconsistencies when Mulder pulls them out. She kind of says something effective, oh, well, they're just maybes. Yeah. It's like, no, Scully, he's shown you clear inconsistencies in literally what you have just told him. Yeah. Which shows that this is...
something else.
Well, Scully saying, oh, I've got this information, but it's highly classified. It's like, yeah, it's still a classified lie, Scully.
Yeah, and also the helicopters, it's like they're hunting for something.
Mm.
And if it's a person who's walked away from a crash, even if they're ejected, as she initially suggests, they're not going to be in a good way.
Mm.
Not out in the woods.
Not needing that amount of firepower they've got looking for one pilot.
Yeah. But she's also willing to sort of help out with the surgery at a drop of a hat.
Mm.
Which should be good, but then she's also told about her manner and walks out of the scene too soon to see supernatural phenomena again.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Scully's character a minute. I mean, how do you read her reaction when she reads the newspaper report about the cover-up? Because I don't think she's comfortable with how it's being presented to the public.
No, but again, Scully is completely kind of lawful good. Is that if Scully is told something, she will follow it.
Yeah.
She might not ethically agree with it. It's even at the end of the episode when she tries to defend Mulder and they tell her to shut up. She does shut up.
Yes, she just goes back.
I suppose we can say that at least she is at the stage now where she will try to defend him.
Oh, yeah.
But she's still not quite there on his side.
Yeah. You'd hope after at least ice, at the very least.
Squeeze.
And squeeze, yes. There's going to be a whole... Yeah, maybe he's not as crazy as people assume he is.
Mm.
Is it foreshadowing what Deep Throat says at the end? that they want Mulder kept away from the wrong kind of people. In this case, what does that mean?
I think it's made it quite vague as to whose side Deep Throat's on.
He's on both. He's definitely for and against Mulder,
I
depending.
think he's playing both sides, you get that feel. As you previously thought he was an inside trader almost. He's kind of somebody who's feeding information from the inside to Mulder.
Yeah.
But now he seems to have a completely different agenda in this episode.
Well, it makes clear he's got an authority we didn't know before, given that the FBI section chief has gone to him and said, why did you countermand this?
And this is the guy above Blevins as well. McGrath, I think they call this guy. Because they say he's overruled Blevins, so that means that Blevins is higher than Mulder and Scully, this guy's above Blevins, and Deep Throat's higher than that.
Yeah. And somehow not in the major structure, because no one can identify who he is, or Mulder does not recognise him as a matter of course.
I guess going back to Ghost in the Machine, though, when Peterson says, the same people sign our paychecks, is you've got this idea of there's some kind of connection in the government here.
So it's interesting, so it has shown a bit more of a different aspect to himself.
And also kind of questioned how far... As Max says, trust no one, how far can we trust Deep Throat either?
Well, that's the question.
At what point would he throw Mulder under the bus?
Guess we're going to watch and find out. Have you got anything else for Fallen Angel?
Let me flip through my notes. We do have another reoccurring theme that I've kind of spotted in these episodes, is the way the government controls witnesses.
Oh, yes. The threats.
Yeah, the threats. We saw it in Deep Throat, I think, with the wife again.
Yep, and implied conduit.
Conduit as well with the woman.
The conduit seemed to be split on the whole if it was embarrassment or an active threat, whereas Deep Throat definitely was a threat to her.
But this one too, you had the wife of the ranger at the start, who basically, I think she even says, I can't afford the truth, because they won't release her husband's pension if she doesn't kind of play ball.
Yeah.
So they've managed to keep this monetary threat that'll keep anything kind of suspicious under wraps.
Yeah. And Oppenheim, though, he does open up and... Really, guys, still Oppenheim? Could you not come with a different name?
I love that he's called Oppenheim. But I do like his playing the system, is the fact that he's a doctor and he doesn't like the military throwing weight, so he finds the kind of small rebellion.
Yeah, that was nice. So we also watched Eve. Eve was first broadcast on the 10th of December 1993 and directed by Fred Gerber. Written by Kenneth Biller and Chris Brancato. Guest stars, because you knew this wasn't what's coming, there's Harriet Harris as Sally Kendrick and Eve 6, 7 and 8. She has been also seen in Addams Family Values, where she played Ellen Buckman, who's one of the parents at the summer camp.
Yes.
Yeah. She's in Romeo and Juliet, who I completely forgot she was in there. The Baz Luhrmann one.
Who did she play?
She played Susan Santandiego.
Not a clue.
No, I can't remember at all. She's in Memento as Mrs. Jenkins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, because every time Fallen Angel might have escaped it, but Eve can't, we're back to Frasier, because she is BB Glazer. Frasier's basically evil agent. And she's only in 11 episodes.
Is she really only in 11? She makes more of an impression than that.
Yeah, such a huge impression. She's only in 11 episodes. It feels like she'd be more. We love BB. She's amazing.
She's one of the best characters in Frasier.
Absolutely unscrupulous. And always a great joy when she turns up.
It shows that she's well cast as psychopaths.
Absolutely. She was also, and I noted this one because it's what Morgan and Wong went on to after the X-Files. She was in Space Above and Beyond as Ambassador Diane Hayden.
Okay.
She was also in Millennium as Maureen Murphy. And, for us, American Horror Story Apocalypse as Madeline. I cannot remember who that is. Although she was even in that series.
No,
but
I don't remember being in American Horror Story. I'm going to have to go back and look for that.
She's credited in the Apocalypse. And, like last episode, we have Jerry Hardin once again being Deep Throat, getting a surprising number of appearances out of him. So, take it away.
Our episode opens in Greenwich, Connecticut, where two joggers find a little girl hugging her teddy bear, seemingly cold and alone in the driveway of her home. When asked where her father is, the little girl, whose name is Tina, tells them that the dad is out the back, he needed some time to himself. The male jogger goes to check on this and finds Tina's father dead on their swing set, looking incredibly pale and with 2 round wounds on his throat. We cut to Mulder and Scully discussing this case. Surprisingly, Mulder has likened this case to cases he has learnt about cattle mutilations, therefore he believes the cause might be alien. On interviewing Tina, she seems to confirm this fact, saying she remembers things like red lightning and men from the clouds who wanted to exsanguinate her father. That is something that Scully notices unusual about the case. The man has been incapacitated using poison from the foxglove plant, which is called digitalis, and most of the blood has been removed from his body by some unknown means. Mulder and Scully leave Tina with the local authorities while they go all the way to Marlin County, California to investigate a seemingly identical case, which due to time differences would have occurred at exactly the same moment. To their surprise, they discover that the victim in this case, who was also male, also had a daughter called Cindy, who is absolutely identical to Tina, which immediately then begins to cast doubt on Mulder's alien assertions, especially when they discover that Cindy was conceived via in vitro fertilization or IVF treatment. While Mulder and Scully are in California investigating this, someone breaks into the agency that are taking care of Tina and kidnaps her, though we do not see who the assailant is. Scully goes to the IVF clinic, where both of the girls, it turns out, were originally conceived. In speaking there, she discovers that the doctor in charge of both these cases was Sally Kendrick, who was a genius bioengineer. However, she was let go by the company because they believed that she was doing work in eugenics, particularly on live embryos that they were using in these kind of cases. She subsequently vanished and no one knows what happened to her. Mulder gets a visit from Deep Throat in the meantime, who tells him about a Cold War project into eugenics. The project created children who were known as Adams and Eves, depending on whether they were male or female. These children had brilliant IQs, but had a tendency to kind of turn psychotic and even violent and murderous.
And suicide.
And suicidal, yes, correct. He tells Mulder where one of the surviving Eves, who is Eve 6, is being kept at a government facility, and gets Mulder and Scully access to go and visit her. While at the facility, they discover that Eve 6 has incredibly sensitive eyes and is largely kept restrained in the dark due to the fact that she once attacked one of the orderlies. Because of this, no one really knows what she looks like because they've not got a clear look at her. However, when Mulder and Scully gain access, we clearly see that although she professes she is not Sally Kendrick, she looks exactly like her, kind of indicating that Sally was one of these Eves. Eve 6 also mentions that two other Eves, Eve 7 and Eve 8, have both previously escaped from the facility. Learning about Tina's kidnapping, Mulder begins to suspect that there will be a pattern and someone therefore will come for Cindy. He travels to keep watch on her house but is unable to stop an assailant who is revealed as being Eve 7 or Sally Kendrick herself from taking Cindy in the night. Sally takes Cindy to a motel, uniting her with Tina for the first time, and questions her on how they came to formulate the plan to kill their fathers. The girls just express the fact that they both knew to do it. Although Eve 7 herself is rehabilitated and hopes to do the same for the girls, unbeknownst to her, spike her drink with digitalis poison, killing her. Mulder and Scully arrive in the scene just in the time to see Eve 7 lying dead. The girls claim that there were two women involved, the other one being Eve 8, who of course we know as the audience were not. Eve 8 they blame on trying to create a little Jonestown by poisoning everyone together, but the girls claim they just pretended to drink their drinks and Eve 8 ran away when she heard the police coming. Mulder and Scully take custody of Tina and Cindy. While they are driving them away, the girls both say that they need to use the bathroom, so they stop at a truck stop. While there, we see one of the girls distract Scully, while the other claims to be helping Mulder with the drinks and instead poisons two of the cups. Luckily, Mulder forgets his keys in the restaurant and going back to retrieve them, notices some of the digitalis powder on the table where his keys are and realises that the girls are truly the killers. He manages to stop Scully from drinking more than a sip, so therefore doesn't take a fatal dose of the poison, but the two girls realise that Mulder is onto them and make a break for it, using the fact that they are children to gain sympathy and try and elude Mulder and Scully. Luckily, it doesn't work. Mulder quickly gets hold of both of the girls again. Although they try and profess their innocence, Mulder has realised what they are. In the closing moments of the episode, we see that Cindy's mother has disowned her daughter and that both girls are being kept in the same government facility as Eve 6. in the final scene, we see they have a visitor. The camera pans to show us that this is Eve 8, who has evidently come to spring her remaining sisters.
Thank you. Rewatching this episode, it's a case of the very first point is really a case of, and this wasn't a setup for a vampire story because, or was it a vampire story at one point and it got changed? I know that wasn't the origin of the episode, but when you've got 2 punch wounds on the neck, the exsanguination of the blood, and as you have not let go since we watched the episode, where the hell did that blood go?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I am liking this to my criticisms of a horror movie I really like, Sinister.
Yeah.
Where, I'm sorry I'm about to spoil this, it's about 12 years old, so I feel justified. The kids are responsible for the murders in that too, but some of them are things like hanging people from trees and how these 6-year-old girls are getting adults into trees is beyond me. But in this as well is, I can buy... It mentions that the Eves might be super strong, but they're still little girls. There's going to be a limit to poisoning these people, getting them upright into swings, and completely exsanguinating them.
Well, it's 4 litres of blood was what was, or over 4 litres of blood was what was quoted in the episode.
The average adult, I'm sorry, I'm a bit vague between pints and litres, so I'm trying to do this head. I think an average adult male would have about 5.5 litres of blood.
So that tracks with 75%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you said, where the hell is it? What have you done with all the blood? Because if they were vampires, it's a case of, they've drunk the blood.
Yeah.
That's still a lot of blood to drink.
I'd like to think that even if the girls had dumped it in the bushes or something, there'd be some trace, like a cadaver dog would find it or something like that. Your point about it once being a vampire thing, as far as I found out, it was always supposed to be a genetic mutant story. The writer wanted to write a tale about how a genetic project had gone awry. Its biggest inspiration is a movie from 1978, which I haven't seen, called The Boys from Brazil, which is about Nazi scientists trying to clone Hitler. Yeah,
reasonably notorious film.
So because of that, the working title for this episode is actually The Girls from Greenwich, tying into The Boys from Brazil.
Yeah, I get that. It's an odd setup, though, because, at first sight of the episode, you think vampires. The Mulder says, nope, cow mutilation. You get, okay, so it's aliens, and they do run with that for a while, and you get the red lightning and the men from the clouds.
Sure. I'm assuming that the girls are psychic, although it never kind of infers that they're anything other than psychic, other than with themselves. They can evidently communicate because of the "we just knew."
Yeah, yes.
But they somehow know to tell Mulder exactly what he wants to hear that makes him think it's aliens with the men in the clouds.
Yeah. Well, I do like, though, that the episode actually sort of makes you buy into the possibility of this, because there's nothing to counteract it at first.
Mm.
I think the first...
I'd say the digitalis poison is your first thing, is why would the aliens poison him?
Yeah, that's the first thing to cause it. But the first one to sort of try and make you suspicious of the girls is Cindy watching Eek the Cat, and then she switches it over to the political debate, and then listens into the conversation happening behind her.
The novel, this is another one with a young adult novel. It's actually written by the same person who wrote the novelisation of Shadows, I think. But it really draws your attention to the fact, because Mulder kind of double takes and thinks that, what kind of child is this watching the president's address?
And not Eek the Cat.
Yeah.
I very much liked Scully trying to do a bit of bedside manner and also still sucking compared to Mulder.
Mm. Mulder, again, like in Tombs and things, though, is also asking the totally leading questions.
Oh, yeah, not subtle at all with his, please tell me more about the red lightning.
Yeah.
Men from the clouds? Where? And it's also, getting kids to say the word exsanguinate turned out to just be comedy gold. Because it's in Mockingbird Lane as well, still has the exsanguinate as the
I like
sort of
the
joke.
technical terms in this. Scully keeps saying hypervolemia, which of course is the Latin for loss of blood. But she never feels the need to explain what this means to the audience. It's like, I appreciate that we've got our medically minded person using medical terms and not having to artlessly explain them.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's some good horror moments in this episode as well, different kinds of horror. Because you've got the cold open, kind of, the not so what's going on. Then you've got Tina's abduction from the facility. There's the unseen figure battering at the door and everything, and then she's hiding under the bed and gets grabbed.
Yeah.
And then the one I sort of get hung up on a bit was the light coming on in the wardrobe, which I always felt was a bit of a weird one. when Cindy's grabbed.
I agree with you. There's no reason to do it other than to draw the viewer's attention to the fact that someone's hiding in the closet.
Yeah, 'cause she's blown her cover. And then you get the more kind of Shining-esque Children of the Corn, Village of the Damned thing, when it's revealed properly that the girls are the actual killers.
Yeah, it's very Midwich Cuckoos. Well, I guess you've got that with the girls from Greenwich kind of...
The idea originally, yeah.
Heading is, it's very Midwich Cuckoos sort of naming. With the two creepy girls who just knew. I've used the Black Book lines before, but it's the cold dead eyes of the killer. Again, these really two expressionless, creepy kids.
Yeah. Actually, genuine twins as well. There was debate about whether they could do it with CGI and body doubles, but they did actually locate two very unsettling children to do this.
Even for identical twins, they are really alike.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you which one poisoned the drinks at the end.
I know it does specifically say it in the novel, but
how
I
can you
can't
tell
remember.
on screen?
No,
yeah,
on screen,
no indication
whether that's
at all.
Tina or Cindy.
I mean, they're dressed basically identically after that point, so...
It's specifically, I didn't really clock it in the episodes, but the novel points out it's the photo that Mulder has shown of all the Eves together is they're wearing the same outfit. She's dressed them up in the kind of classic Eve getup.
Oh, she done? Okay,
yeah.
That's one that didn't come through. Well, I think also in novelization differences, you made the point that the novelization has a better job of why Mulder and Scully take charge of them, which is the whole Mulder projecting his sister onto her again.
Yeah.
Whereas in the episode, it's a case of, well, we'll take them back to Washington. It's a case of, you're two FBI agents who don't have kids. They're basically terrible.
It makes sense when you think in Mulder's psychology is they're roughly the same age Samantha would have been.
Yeah. And that makes more sense, but in the episode, it's a case of, you're just taking them to facilitate this other plot.
Mm.
But then we also get the hilarious moment where it turns out that on long drives, Mulder and Scully don't say anything to each other, don't have any music on, and just drive in silence.
It's even when you've got kids, I think you say, hey kids, do you want the radio on?
Yeah,
or something like that.
Something. But no, it's like, because that was like mid-afternoon or something when they picked them up, and it was like...
It's dark by the time they get to the truck stop, yeah.
It's like, how long have you been driving?
I feel you're saying about the different horror in this episode as well. It kind of makes it creepier than it should be as well, because it's trying to make you think for the longest time that this could be aliens.
Yes.
So it's particularly Tina, the first girl to get abducted, when she's hiding under the bed and stuff. It's, if we're pretty sure that Tina might be psychic, there's no reason why she'd be afraid here or something like that.
No.
But she's afraid for the purpose of the audience who need to think that she would be afraid.
Yeah, admittedly, that is probably the bit, it kind of unravels a bit, because, yeah, she shouldn't be reacting like that, because she's fully cognizant of who's come for her, basically.
Yeah. She just knew.
So, yeah, it's a play to the audience rather than something that makes sense for character-wise.
Mm.
I've missed a type of horror before as well, because we have, obviously, the Silence of the Lambs style.
Oh, the bit where they visit Eve 6 is really, really Hannibal Lecter.
But, as we also noted at the time, there's just a really frustrating problem with how they've framed this one moment, which then makes the payoff at the end of the episode go, no, wait, what?
The fact that they claim that nobody's got a clear look at Eve 6, even though she's been restrained for biting an orderly in the eyeball, who we therefore think that somebody must have got a pretty good look at her.
Well, and she's in a straitjacket and in chains. Also, Mulder and Scully have no problem recognising she looks identical to Sally Kendrick.
Therefore, you think someone might do a double take when Eve 8 walks in at the end and think, hang on.
And the guy at the desk doesn't even double take. Okay, so, no, you know exactly who just walked back into your prison.
I do like the bite of the eyeball, though. It's
that's Hannibal Lecter.
It's the Silence of the Lambs bit where he attacks an orderly, and I think in the film, Chilton just shows Clarice a picture and says, "Oh, we saved one of her eyes."
Yeah, you never see the picture.
Yeah, it's like that's very, very much that scene.
Absolutely,
from another angle.
So that's all really effective. There's definitely some biological nonsense going on here with her whole extra chromosomes and her IQ.
Four extra chromosomes
and her IQ of 265. Which I think is largely impossible.
You're a genius if you're over about 150?
Yeah, something like that. More interesting, I thought, though, was the fact that Deep Throat contacts Mulder out the blue, because you had to think about this, because in the book it's really strange.
Yeah, I think it makes a bit more sense with the cutting of the episode is... I skipped over that, I think, in my review of... Mulder and Scully are actually in California when Deep Throat contact them. there is a phone call. Scully picks it up and just hears someone hang up on the other end.
Well, it's a few clicks, I think.
A few clicks and then hangs up.
Yeah.
Mulder realises what this means, so he just shunts Scully out the room. And then he goes and meets Deep Throat somewhere, so you assume he must have called back or something like that. Or Deep Throat called him again after Scully had left. But in the book, it completely cuts it. It doesn't tell you Mulder's frame of mind at all. He just shunts Scully out the room, and then starts the next chapter, he's with Deep Throat. It's like, where did he come from?
I think you can read some shades of jealousy into Scully saying, "I've got a girl coming over" when she's been pushed out the door. Should we continue the Sculder romance, which we can try and keep track of?
I think it's more teasing him.
Absolutely, but we've got to take the breadcrumbs when they show up. I thought it's interesting, though, that Deep Throat gives Mulder this information, and apparently Mulder delivers it to Scully off-screen, and she doesn't balk or protest at any of it.
Mm.
She leaves it completely down the line and sort of walks into that room with Eve 6, and, yep, no surprises and no sort of shock of what they're going to find. Scully also gets knocked out in this episode, and it's not even to facilitate something weird happening.
Oh,
like
when Cindy's being kidnapped.
Yeah, and Scully gets pushed over and then she's out, and that's it. Oh, come on, could Eve 6 not have done something really weird and that Scully's not allowed to see that? No, she's just got knocked out because.
I suppose it's just your indication. We mentioned the fact that the Eves have heightened strength and reflexes, is she does just knock Scully out with a relatively minor blow there.
Yeah. And there is also the Hollywood cliche where Eve 6 just goes straight through a plate glass door.
While carrying a child.
And no injuries. And it's a case of, this is one of those things that was cool in films and TV. In the real world, you're going to injure yourself doing that no matter what you do.
Those handy sugar glass windows that every house in California must have.
Absolutely. I also kind of like how they, when Cindy's been kidnapped and they're trying to track them down, and they've got the various leads because the car's been abandoned in the airport. And then Mulder gets a call from some gardener who says, "Oh, you should use chlorine to kill the dinoflagellates." It's case of, yeah, that's them.
Those preternaturally intelligent children.
Yeah.
Well, they do have their 56 chromosomes.
They're 56 chromosomes. And also, just murderous. They just have digitalis on them, apparently. That's actually a good point. It's a case of, which one of them was carrying digitalis at which point when they were abducted?
Well, one of them draws it out of her pocket, but they're so identical I couldn't tell you which kid it was.
Well, I think it's got to be Sydney, hasn't it? Because they, presumably, Tina, when she was submitted to the agency, was given new clothes and everything, and all her old stuff was taken away from her. Because it's not in her cuddly bunny, because that was left behind when she was abducted.
Yeah.
So Cindy is ready to be abducted and has secreted the vial just to kill Eve 7 when she gets a chance. That's cold.
I felt that the kind of how fast acting that digitalis is questionable in times as well. It's particularly the Scully line at the end where she says, "Oh, we only had a sip, it wouldn't be enough to kill." Yeah. It's like, how much do you think you've ingested, Scully? You don't know if she's put a tiny thimbleful in there or if she's just emptied an entire thing into your drink. I'm pretty sure this isn't how poison works.
No. At the same time as well, though, I have to say, Scully getting a soft drink is really odd given that she and Mulder strike me as coffee drinkers. So the fact they've stopped at the service station to get some caffeine and they've bought 2 regular drinks and 2 diet.
They have stopped at like a cheapo kind of
truck stop,
wimpy chef sort of thing.
Yeah. It's going to have coffee.
Yeah,
there's no way you can have coffee.
You can get coffee in places like Mickey D's, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. There was no way they won't serve coffee. So them having sodas with the girls, other than to facilitate this whole, "Oh, we want 2 diet and 2 regular." Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
I thought when Mulder took a sip and said, "Oh, my drink tastes really sweet as well," he was onto it the first time as well.
Scully who says that, actually, but yeah, you'd think so.
No, Mulder does. When he takes a sip the first time, he says, "Oh, I think I might have picked up yours. Do you want to try it?" And the girl recoils.
Oh, yeah.
Mulder, expert psychologist, I thought, that's the sign. Mulder's onto her. It's like, no, apparently not.
Absolutely not. I did like that the girls... And it's the kind of thing you'd hope super intelligent murderous children would do, is that when Mulder has the 2 of them cornered, they immediately play up the child aspect.
Help, he's hurting me.
Yeah, which then freaks out the good Samaritans who come to their rescue and will not believe what the scary adult man is doing.
I did feel they could have possibly played it up a bit more. That's the only time in the episode they try the "we're adorable children."
Yeah.
But
I suppose they didn't have much opportunity other than that. Other than, okay, so though for super geniuses, you think one of them had thought, hey, using the word dinoflagellate in general conversation is probably not good for keeping our cover.
Smart kids are kind of like that, though, and I'm making a sweeping generalisation, is smart kids like you to know that they're smart.
That's true.
They are still children
They are
at
still
the end of the day. Because when you're a kid and you're learning long words, you use them every chance you get.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
As I'm sure I've probably told you many times before, my favourite word as a kid was picturesque.
And that's miasma.
Miasma is definitely a good word. But my parents told me to stop saying things were cool, I should use words like picturesque, and I stuck to the letter, because I'd learnt a long word.
Oh dear.
But again, if you've learnt the word dinoflagellate, you're going to use it.
That's true. And of course, we end the Silence Alarm style with Tina and Cindy, now designated Eve 9 and 10, incarcerated next to their sister. I mean, I'm also going to go on a limb and say, with the kind of notoriety these thieves have, should you really be housing them together like this? Because you're not putting them as far away from each other as you can?
I guess you've got the idea of this is just... They call it the Litchfield experiment, I think, in the episode. The eugenics experiment to make these super genius Eves, because it's never actually said what happened to the Adams.
No, I was going to say, are we meant to imply they all committed suicide or were too aggressive?
But this is your, again to use one of the X-Files' taglines, government denies all knowledge.
Yeah.
Is we've just buried them here they are together, this is where we'll probably prod at them and experiment on them every now and then, but otherwise this is where we've disappeared them too. Much like the other characters we've seen them disappear, like Volchek in Ghost in the Machine.
Yeah. Do you have anything else?
Yes, actually I do.
Oh, cool. God.
Mulder is wrong.
Mulder is right. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, for the first time, his initial theory is so far off base, it's not even the right genre.
Usually you get the fact that Scully will take an Occam's razor route, Mulder will posit something ridiculous, and that ridiculous thing will be right.
Yes, even if he was left with no evidence of it.
But Mulder was totally off the base in this one.
That's very true, he was.
It wasn't aliens or vampires or anything else.
To be fair to him, he never said vampires.
No, but he did say cattle mutilations. Why, really? What does this look like a cattle mutilation?
I don't know, it's 2 punch wounds in the neck. It's a case of, watching the episode again, it's a case of, yeah, why did no one say vampires? It looks like a vampire
Have you ever read a report of a cattle mutilation? They're all like surgical type organ removals. It's nothing like this.
Well, I think he does say as well, it's like, it usually puncture marks in like, it's not usually the neck and things, was it, when he was describing it?
It's like when you read things like that, Skinwalker Ranch cases and stuff like that. It's things like, internal organs or tongues being removed with surgical precision.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nothing like this case that Mulder has decided is a cattle mutilation.
Yeah, I mean, really, they should have just went more into the...
vampires.
The vampires or the aliens. Or even, should we go a bit further and just just remove the exsanguination from the episode? Because, as you said, the blood has just disappeared somewhere. And the exsanguinating, other than bringing it to Mulder's attention, doesn't really serve any purpose.
I think, technically speaking, I can't imagine that digitalis poisoning is that common.
No, that should be rare enough.
I don't think we even saw foxgloves really in the garden.
No, they did say we cultivated them.
They said we cultivated them, but you see them. So that it wouldn't be that they'd be able to look at the garden and think, oh, yeah, this was a freak gardening accident or something like that, if he actually had foxgloves going there. Because I don't know how common they are in America, but you see them all over the place in the UK. It's a large, distinct plant.
Yeah.
So, just leaving it on 2 people have been killed by this relatively unusual poison at the same time on the same day and left in the same position in their gardens. I think that would be creepy enough without the exsanguination.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's weirdly a case of an episode that's done too much setup.
Yeah, perhaps. I should have said at the start, though, this has been one of my favourite episodes so far.
Oh, I think it's a good episode, yeah.
I really like it. I think it carries its tension really well, and those kids are flipping terrifying. But it plays it well is the fact that you sympathise with them for 75% of the episode. It's not really until they kill Eve 6 that you not Eve 6, Eve 7.
Yeah.
Once they've killed Eve 7 and you realise, actually, these kids are really dangerous, and it's then playing into that fear of, naturally you want to be protective of children and not see them come to any harm. So anything like Village of the Damned that flips the script kind of immediately becomes creepy.
Oh yeah. Children of the Corn, Pet Cemetery. Mostly Stephen King's work, apparently. That's a lie, it's only a few of them.
Their super strength as well, if I'm supposed to believe the fact that they're able to hoist their fathers into these swing sets somehow, or otherwise get them in there, because I'm not sure. It's based on how paralysis works, as if they're succumbing to paralysis like Eve 7, you'd expect them to fall down, not get neatly into a swing set where they can be exsanguinated. Where did the superhuman strength go when Mulder apprehends them at the end of the episode?
It's a good point.
Is that Mulder grabs them both and they both do their, "Let us go, we are innocent children."
No, you're not.
But they don't manage to overpower him, and based on how strong we've got to assume these kids are, you would have thought the two of them together could take out Mulder.
It's a good point. So, we've got 2 episodes worth of conspiracy stuffs. Let's go to Kim's Conspiracy Corner.
With what we've learnt in Fallen Angel in particular this week, we can start making some connections within the conspiracy of the X-Files. We have now seen through the kind of progression through Deep Throat, Conduit, and Fallen Angel that the government does have knowledge of alien life and alien visitations to Earth. Certainly to the level that the Air Force has call signs which they can use to relate to alien kind of crash landings or otherwise aliens entering the atmosphere. The code that is most predominantly used in this episode, of course, is a fallen angel for a downed craft. We know that the government can act quickly in the event of these threats, and will cover them up as some kind of natural ecological disaster to kind of keep the public away from these sites, which they can completely gut and take away within 24 hours. Any kind of life or any technology that they take away, we presume this is what we saw in Deep Throat, of their being taken to select military bases where they can be used for government applications, although we don't physically see that in Fallen Angel. The aliens themselves, again, we're starting to see some similar features in them now. We've seen a couple of different alien life forms. We know that they can go invisible, although they do also have some kind of physical presence on the world. This might be connected to the alien we saw in Spaced, which certainly does have a spectral form, although this one doesn't seem to be able to fly through the atmosphere in the same way as the one in Spaced. Like the alien in Space, however, it is physically dangerous. We do see this one in particular, it's not just heat, it can kind of emit radiation, which can cause incredibly severe burns and usually kill anyone who comes into direct contact with it. We also see that the aliens themselves, not necessarily just their kind of spaceships, which is what we saw in Pilot, do have the ability to either possess or otherwise control humans, particularly ones who are sensitive that it's implied have been kind of abducted or experimented on in the past. The aliens also have some kind of teleportation technology, which is not something we've necessarily seen before, though I will still argue that this was present in the pilot. We also, within these episodes, particularly more so in Eve, see that the government will bury things. So, not only does the government engage in unethical experiments, if they think that this will further their research, particularly in the fields of things like eugenics and military-grade technology, is if something doesn't work, it will disappear, and the public will not be made aware of it. It will just become inaccessible to anyone other than the higher levels of government, which is what we are forced to believe that Deep Throat represents. Although we don't know exactly what faction Deep Throat belongs to, it's clear that he has ties in upper government and is certainly ranked higher than most people at the FBI. Is there anything you'd like to add?
That memory wipe technology they have in Deep Throat doesn't seem to be on general usage, given it'd be a good idea to do it to Mulder.
That's a good point. Our Air Force people in here do not have the mind wipe technology.
No, or at least don't bother to use it on Max and Mulder, which I think would be sensible.
Maybe it was just that military base and it's not in general use yet. It did seem kind of experimental in Deep Throat.
Yes, and also more involved, so maybe it's the whole they didn't have time to do that and hunt down a rogue alien at the same time. But I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, I concur.
Yep. So if you want to get hold of us, we have our email, which is thingsargettingstrange42@gmail.com. And for our other socials?
Our username on Facebook is just search for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch Podcast. That's the quickest way to find us. For Tumblr, Twitter, and Mastodon, it is GetStrange42 is our username.
Cool. So yeah, let us know if you've got any comments, theories, anything else you want to tell us.
Or if you've got any news, we're happy to kind of share any, obviously, X-Files related news. if you're doing anything interesting, if you've got a convention or anything like that coming up.
Yeah, that'd be good to know.
Let us know, we'll happily share it.
If you've heard any more about X-Files Albuquerque than is on general knowledge, which I don't think anyone does know anything about it still.
No, I haven't heard anything.
No. Anyway, thank you all for listening. Our intro music is Envision by Kevin MacLeod. You can find that on incompetech.com. It's licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Until next week, remember, everything dies.